was actually during the night. I think it was probably in the early hours of the morning. We were burgled. Somebody came in through a window that we'd, by mistake, left open downstairs on a very hot night. We were all asleep in the house, all being my husband and myself and my daughter and 3 young grandchildren who'd just arrived from Scotland for a week's holiday. Discovered there were some drawers pulled out in my husband's, the room he uses as an office for his business things, and thought the children was unusual, but the children must have pulled it out. And then some keys were missing, which the children, I think it was the zapper for the garage door, which they know how to open, but they never normally touch it, but that was missing. And then I noticed that the computer had gone, wasn't there, and at that moment I realised that we'd been burgled. And we went back into the kitchen and I looked in the drawer where I keep my purse, and that had gone. We also had the fact that both door keys had been taken, that we were no longer secure. And I think we went to bed that night with a chain on the front door and a chair wedged up under the handle of the back door. And I was more feeling guilty that we'd left the window open. And then sort of wrestling with myself on this and rehearsing this speech I was going to give to the judge. It was just before Christmas, and I realised that there needed to be some communication with him before we met him, and I sent him a Christmas card, which happened to be one that my grandson had done at school, one of the grandsons who was staying at the time. He was anxious to know the effect of the burglary on our grandchildren who were in the house. I think that was the thing that struck him, was that there were children in the house. I said, why our house? And he said, well, we tried several and we couldn't get in, and there was we'd left this window open, so it was relatively easy to get. I think it struck him that we were actual people who were affected by his actions, and that there were more than just us, there were children in the house. I said to him, was it worth it? What did you get out of it? And he shrugged his shoulders and said, yes, it wasn't worth it, was it? I think he became a person. I was quite happy to actually meet the person who, had been uninvited in our house. But as he left, we stood up and he shook hands with both of us and said to each of us, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. But the fact that having met us and seen that we were people who were affected by his actions, he could show some remorse. And I said to him that I acknowledged that he was quite courageous to have agreed to this, to want to take part in a process like this, acknowledging that it was probably much harder for him than it was for us. We wished him good luck and hoped that these courses would enable him to move on. When he came out, we stood up and shook his hand, and he apologised, and instinctively I gave him a hug. I did write to him afterwards, but I've not, and I intend to write to him again, and she'll certainly send him another Christmas card.